Well, what you're really talking about is scaling. And there's two ways, and it's all in our business plan and things that are already in place. And scaling requires two things. One, AI, and two, having good people around you. And you know, what I love to do is surround myself with people who are smarter than me. I just do that whenever I can. And then, oh yeah, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. I want to be surrounded by brilliant people. And,
I agree.
Yeah. And I have relationships and strategic partners and so on, so that as I grow, as this plan and the system grows, the scaling is, or the pieces for scaling are already in place.
The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you're ambitious, but are manual tasks like admin, lead generation, nurturing, and onboarding holding you back from truly scaling your business? Imagine saving dozens of hours every week, freeing you to deepen client relationships and execute high-impact strategy. Our clients aren't just imagining it. They're saving countless hours per week and doubling their revenue within months. We custom-build AI automation systems that eliminate the grind. From effortless lead generation and nurturing to seamless onboarding, we give you back the most valuable resource, your time, so you can focus on building those vital human connections and driving strategic growth. Stop letting repetitive tasks limit your potential. It's time to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Ready to unlock your true scaling power? Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free AI audit call today to discover how you can save time and double your revenue. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Intelligence Forge YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
Solving Americans' public safety crisis. The zero-cost strategy saving departments using AI. Welcome to the Intelligence Forge, where we explore innovative solutions transforming business and society. Today, we are tackling one of the Americans' most pressing crises with our guest, David Alemian. He is the creator of the only U.S. copyrighted retention system in America and the man who is pioneering a zero-cost strategy that is literally saving police and fire departments nationwide. David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
All right, let's dive into it. So let's get started by asking you, because you made a very bold claim, stopping 100% of preventable turnover, zero net cost solution, and even receiving recognition from the highest government, But before we dive into some of these questions, I just want you to introduce yourself to our audience, who you are, what you do, and then we come back to some of those claims and some of those things that you're doing.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Yes, I'm David Alemian, and I'm I focus on retention, because one of the biggest problems that employers have today is finding and keeping highly skilled professionals. I mean, this is across all industries. However, I focus using this tool that I created on where we need it most. And one of the places we need it most is in public safety. There's a shortage of police officers. There's a shortage of firefighters. There aren't enough to go around. And turnover costs are one of the biggest hidden costs that an employer has. In this case, a municipality or even the federal government, federal law enforcement. I solve those.
Okay, I have to ask you about something extraordinary. You recently received an email from the President of the United States of America himself. Most business leaders never get that kind of recognition from the White House. Walk us through what you did to capture the President's attention, and what's that email all about?
Well, what did I do to capture his attention was I contacted the White House. It was really, and what surprised me though was that he sent me back an email, which tells you the kind of guy that he is. President Trump is amazing. And I sent it to him because he's so concerned about public safety. I mean, his whole thing about making America great again, it really starts with public safety. Because without public safety, what do you have? So I use my solution, the Alemian Retention System, to help law enforcement agencies federal, state, county, municipal, attract and retain the police officers that they need to get up to full staff. Because what most people don't know is the average police department across the country, nationwide, is down by 10% of their authorized strength. There are some, many, that are down 15, 20, 30. I've seen some even down over 40%. That's almost half of what they really need to ensure public safety. Is that sustainable? No, it's not sustainable, not for the long run. What that leads to is it makes it even worse, because those that are on the job are suffering from forced overtime. I mean, how long can you do that without it taking its toll? And so I created a system that would attract and retain the officers that they need, because there aren't enough to go around. We need, not only are these departments short, we need to bring in new officers, because the senior officers are retiring faster than new officers are coming in. So how do we do that? Well, some say pay them more money. That never works. And here's why. Someone else will be more desperate, have deeper pockets, and offer even more money. It's like a company offering the lowest price. There's always somebody else who comes along and has an even lower price. So what is the solution? Well, drawing on my own experience, I've been in the retirement planning business for over 30 years. And here's some things that I found. One, funding retirement is the biggest financial challenge that Americans have. There's nothing more financially daunting than funding your retirement. Two, most are not prepared for retirement. And when they do realize they're not prepared, for many of them, it's too late. And there are more people today working well into their retirement years than ever before. And what happens when they run out of money in retirement? It's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight at all. And at the end of the day, most people want to have a comfortable retirement without worrying about bills. They just want to enjoy their spouse, significant other, their grandchildren, and so on. They just want to enjoy their golden years. You know what they don't want to do? They don't want to end up bagging groceries at the local supermarket. They don't want to be standing at the front of Walmart and saying, "Hi, welcome to Walmart." Or chasing carriages out in the... And some of these people probably had very, very significant jobs, important jobs during their career, and now they have to eat humble pie because they ran out of money in retirement. And that's sad. So, how do we fix this? I create supplemental employee retirement plans. Now, nothing new about that, and we fund it using life insurance. But there's nothing new about that, because many big companies do that for their Fortune 500 executives, Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 1,000 companies, and so on. But it's the way that I did it that makes this a copyright. One, the employer funds the whole plan, 100%. Cost the employee zero. Well, they don't have any money to put in it themselves anyway, because they're spending all their money on lifestyle. Here's something I forgot to mention. Not everybody, but most people live a lifestyle equivalent to their income. They got a $50,000 income, they got a $50,000 lifestyle. Got a $500,000 income, they got a $500,000 lifestyle. Now some people say, oh, what's the guy who making $500,000 have to worry about? You know, look at the house, the cars, the kids in private school, and all the stuff. I said, that's right. Look at the house, the cars, the kids in private school, and all the stuff. It costs them probably about $20,000 a month to live. Well, 3,000 times 12 is what? 240,000? After taxes, from 500,000 to 250, what's left? Nothing. They're living paycheck to paycheck like everybody else, just a bigger paycheck. But I digress. I digress. Come back to law enforcement. Law enforcement, they want to have a nice retirement too. And people say, well, they all have pensions. And yeah, they do have pensions. But because of the way the pension system is designed, most of them don't retire at full benefit. They retire down around 60% of the benefit. That means you're taking about 60% cut in pay. And for many of them, not all, but many of them, even at full benefit, it's still less than their working years. So what happens to them? Well, for most departments, it's somewhere in their 50s or so, depending on the city or town or state. Mandatory retirement age is somewhere around their mid-50s. Yet they just had a drop in income. And a lot of them, because they have a pension, they're not paying into Social Security, so they don't have Social Security to add to it, which means what do they have to do? They have to go out and get a job in their mid to late 50s. That's not really very good. What they really want, and would be very attractive, would be able to retire at an income equal to or even greater than their working year's income. And this is funded by the employer, in this case, the municipality, state, county, federal, whoever. And it can be made to hold them there for, in exchange, the employee agrees to stay with the organization. Could be for 5 years, could be for 10 years, could be till retirement, could be anything in between. If they don't live up to their obligation, they forfeit the benefit. Carrot and the stick. I mean, that's giving them a big thing to lose and an amazing thing, lifestyle, if they stay. And that's all they have to do, is to stay to get the benefit. Now, what if they stay? Well, unlike pensions, which have a big liability to the employer, because we're living longer, the liability is not on the employer. The liability is on a third party. Now, here's one more piece that makes it why it has a copyright to it. Let's say this thing is going to generate an income of X amount of dollars. Let's say for this conversation, it's going to generate an income of $50,000. I build it to generate an income of maybe 70,000 or 80,000 or 100,000, depending on how we structure it. The employee gets their 50,000. Each year, the employer gets that balance that we built it to. Over time, they recover 100% of the principal of what they put out. So in every scenario, there's a few more features and benefits in there, but for this conversation, in every scenario, suffice it to say, the employer always recovers 100% of its investment. And when you build this right, you won't lose anybody. Basically, you'll stop 100% of preventable turnover. You know, what do I mean by preventable turnover? Well, things that you can't do anything about it. The person reaches retirement age, you got turnover. If the person doesn't live a long life and dies on the job somewhere or at a young age, you can't prevent those kinds of things. But for every other scenario, you stop that turnover cold. You save on turnover costs, you have happier, more productive employees, the community is safer and secure, and everybody wins.
Wow, that's fantastic. Wow. I think you cover a lot of ground, but what you're actually doing, if we have to look at it in the real sense, you're not just doing business, you're actually also responding to national emergency. You agree with me on that? But however, yes, I want to ask you one thing that you also said. You mentioned that replacing a single officer or firefighter could cost about 213% of their salary. Can you break it down, make it clear to our audience? Where do those costs come from? What does that mean for a department's budget?
Great question. Now, let's ask first, because this will really answer a lot of that question. Where did I get that 213%? I got that 213% number from the Department of Labor. The U.S. Department of Labor says the cost to replace skilled labor is 213% of salary. Now, that includes a lot of different things. Like, for example, if you're a company and you lose a person and now all of a sudden production goes down, there's a cost to that. And all that's built in. But it doesn't matter. It's going to be different costs for different occupations. Okay. So we take the 213% as a general figure. It could be a little more for some organizations, a little less. But you got to be right there around 213%. However, that being said, it's even more for law enforcement. Why?
Wow.
Because of all the testing and certification that comes in addition to all those other things, and the probationary periods and so on. In other words, they don't just hire a police officer and then put him out on the street.
Yeah,
right?
True.
I mean, there's a whole ramp-up time that can take 2 or 3 years before he's really settled into that particular community. So the cost for a police officer is actually higher. I talk to industry leaders all the time. And when I say, the cost to replace someone is more than double, and it's 213% if you really want to get precise, Department of Labor statistic, you go, yeah, you're right. It's got to be at least that, because they know. So that's where that number comes from.
Wow. Thank you so much for breaking it down. But beyond the financial impact, what are you seeing in terms of public safety consequences? How are these staffing shortages actually affecting crime rate, emergency response time?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. Let me ask you a question. You're driving down the highway, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing 80 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour. They don't care, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, there's a speed trap on the side of the road and somebody's pulled over, so they don't get pulled over. But what do they do right away? They slow down because of police presence, right? You know, when the cat's away, the mice will play, right? Okay. Well, the same thing on a grander scale. So here's how this can affect communities. When there isn't law enforcement in an area, crime becomes rampant. There becomes drug dealing on the street, muggings, there are auto thefts, there are houses broken into. We have, across the country, a massive drug problem. And drug addicts are in pretty much every city across America, and the homeless. And the cause of a lot of the homeless is twofold. It's mental illness and drug addiction. Okay. So where are they going to get money? They generally get money, not always, but generally they get money from stealing or taking it from someone else. I mean, drug addicts. I mean, what are they going to do? They're high all the time. They need to get money for drugs, so they do what they have. They do whatever it is they can to get the money to buy drugs. Okay. So in areas that aren't patrolled by police, that can fester and grow. And as it festers and grows, word travels that, oh, it's safe for us to do whatever it is we want to do over here because there's no cops around. Put cops in the street, and all of a sudden, crime comes down. But here's where it really impacts things, and where it impacts everybody who's watching this podcast today. When crime goes up, property values come down.
Yeah.
People move out of the area. They sell their homes, they move out. What happens? Property values go down even further. Businesses move out. Again, property values come down even more. All of this lowers the tax base, which means now there's less money for budgets like for police. There's less money to provide services that a municipality is supposed to provide. And here's the thing. When someone buys a house, you can ask any realtor this. Generally speaking, two questions that come out from home buyers when they're looking at homes in a new area. One, how safe is the area? What's the crime rate?
Sure,
Right?
that's true.
And then they ask about how are the schools. It may not be in that order, but those are the questions they ask.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
That's true.
So let's flood the area with the proper authorized amount of police officers. What happens? The bad guys go away. Crime comes down, property values come up. Businesses move in. All of a sudden, it's a nice place for people to live. More residents come in.
Come in, yeah.
And what do we have? We have a safe, thriving community. So it affects everyone. Let's add to this.
Okay.
Beyond police officers, who else is there that we count on for public safety? Firefighters, MTs, EMS. There aren't enough of them around. Do you know that over somewhere between 60, depending on who you ask, right around 66, 67, 68% of fire departments are volunteer. They're doing this stuff for free, and they're leaving because they can only give up so much of their time for free in today's world, because the spouse is saying, hey, if you're going to spend as much time as you are away from the family, at least bring some money in, right? So they go and get regular jobs. They're trying to pay their bills.
Right.
I mean, it happens. It's a problem.
Sure.
So we need the same kind of thing. Here's the thing. I spent 30 years helping people plan for retirement. And a lot of that was talking to people with families, with kids. And I go, what should we do? Should we save for retirement or our kids' education? Which comes first? And I said, you need to do both at the same time. And what happens is they'll choose, in many cases, they don't do either. And they start talking about the kids' education when the kid's a junior or senior in high school. And retirement always seems so far down the road, it's the easiest can to kick down the road. Because as I mentioned before, not everybody, but most people live a lifestyle equivalent to their income. The more they make, the more they spend. Okay, well that means to maintain their lifestyle, it's taking every dime that comes in the door. To save for retirement, what do they have to do? They have to give, the money's got to come from someplace. They have to give up lifestyle. And nobody wants to give up lifestyle once they have it, right? Yeah. So this system enables them to save for retirement because it's being done for them. That's a nice thing. They can focus on getting their kids into college. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
And
That's
they can
true.
look forward. They get to look forward to a wonderful retirement off in the future. Especially, you take law enforcement. That's a high pressure job with a lot of stress. It really,
True.
you do that for 30 years, it takes its toll.
It's true.
And so part of the reason a lot of these senior officers are leaving is they get to the point, it's like, I don't know if it's worth it anymore. But this holds them in place because they can take this and look at it and say, yeah, it's worth it. And their spouse is saying, hang in there, honey. I know it's tough, but you're doing it for the two of us. That's our future there. Because sometimes, I don't care what you do, at some point, the stress of the job catches up with you. And you need to have something up here that you can focus on to make that stress go away.
Sure. Wow. That's fascinating. Thank you so much. Magic wand question. Everyone gets to answer this question. If you have unlimited resources today and you could instantly fix one aspect of Americans' public safety staffing crisis, what would you tackle first and why?
I would spread the word about this system to every law enforcement agency in America and have them, we can fix it. The problem of crime is rampant, and this system implemented wide enough can be a significant factor in driving down crime and raising public safety, because we need the people to do it. And this will draw the people in, the right people, and hold them in place.
Wow, thank you. That's fantastic. Now let's look into your solution critically. It's making wave now in the country. Your system is so unique that it received the U.S. copyright protection. Very, very unprecedented. You know that. Now, for a layman, listening, watching this podcast that does not know anything about Alemian Retention System, they've never heard it before. It's new to them. Can you just break it down in a simple layman? I know you've spoken about, a lot of things about it, but for somebody who just I've been listening to you, but I still don't get it. What is this system in just one sentence that probably 8th grader, 6th grader could understand?
Great question. Here's how I like to boil it right down. The employer talking to the employee. We like you. We want you to stay. If you stay, we'll do this. We'll take care of you. We'll ensure that you'll have financial security for life. That's how much we like you. That's how much we want you to stay. No matter what happens, we have your back.
Wow. That is short and sweet.
You asked for short.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you. But how does the zero net cost strategy actually work? How can department improve retention without increasing their budget?
Well,
that's a bold claim.
Yeah. It's not a cost. It's literally a growing and compounding asset on the municipality's balance sheet. Any other benefit? Health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, pensions, Ks, all of those things cost money. It's a cost. It's an expense. You put it out there, it's gone. Yeah, you get something back for it for your employees, but you spent the money. Yeah. It's like we're taking money from here and that the company has, the organization has. You got to have money to do this. And we're moving it over here. We're not spending it. We're just parking it. And we're letting it grow and compound, grow and compound. So this huge fund is what it does. That, by the way, is impervious to market losses. It's safe, secure, and solid. So we're basically, think of it as like a giant, really safe bank account. Did you spend the money? No. You're holding on to it. It's a growing and compounding asset. But the benefit that it brings solves a host of problems.
Okay, let's move on. What is the process? I want to dive into the copyright, aspect of, your system. Maybe walk us through how the copyright process protection work. Why was your system deemed so unique enough to qualify to get that level of intellectual property protection?
The same way anything else qualifies as a copyright. It's original. It's not something taken from somewhere else. It's an original. Just like a story, or a poem, or a painting, or a photograph, or an audio recording, or a video recording. It's an original. And that's why it qualifies. It's not like, oh, we've seen that before. No, it's an original piece of work.
However, now the copyright is there. Does that mean that anyone that wants to use it must reach out to you, or you are the only one that will implement it in any case?
I'm the one who implements it. And here's the beauty of this. There's a lot of moving parts in this thing. I mean, it's not that. The concept is simple, easy to understand. The actual vehicle and putting it together can become very complicated with a lot of moving parts. And since we're talking about a retirement benefit, these are not little things. These are big things.
Sure.
So if you want to implement it, whether you have me do it or someone else do it, it's going to cost you probably the same thing. With one caveat. Somebody else might charge a consulting fee and what you're putting into the thing. I don't charge a consulting fee. I put together the plan. The money that they put into the plan stays in the plan, which is a wonderful thing. Now, here's why someone would want to come to the originator of that plan, which is yours truly. And that's because I understand it frontwards and backwards. I know how to build it right so that there are no mistakes and no, oh, we should have done it this way instead. No, you get it. You get it done right, costs you no more. And at the end of the day, it costs you more. Now, if you had somebody who was new to it or didn't know what they were doing, yeah, they could blow it up real fast. So to avoid mistakes and to do it right, I'm probably the best person to do it, put it together, or at least one of my people under my supervision. But yeah, I'm directly involved in every one of these cases.
Wow. Okay. We'll come back to scaling, but I wanted to find out, you mentioned earlier at the beginning when you and I were chatting that your system could be used by any industry. Can you walk us through how this is possible? And probably if you have planned to roll it out in other industries.
I do this in the healthcare industry, as a matter of fact. We don't have enough doctors and nurses and medical technicians and so on. Basically, it can be applied to any industry that requires people with skills. I mean, you could be a plumbing company with, say, 10 trucks, and you need a couple of plumbers for each truck to go out on the road, right? Because you're the biggest guy in town. Do you know what it costs them to have a truck sitting in their yard because one of their plumbers quit? It costs them a lot of money. So yeah, they could do it. I mean, it's the concept. It's taking the person with skills, tying them to the company. Now, here's the best part. I'm glad you asked this question because it reminded me of something. This isn't like a K or some qualified plan that if you give it to one person, you got to give it to everyone. You don't. I mean, you can. The employer has full discretion over who they award this to. This can be merit-based, which in many cases is how you can build a world-class company. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have 2 hospitals in the same city, both same size, same kind of departments, same number of employees, same number of beds. They're identical in almost every way except for one thing. One hospital, Hospital A, is a world-class medical organization. People come from all over the world to go there. Hospital B, over here, not so much. If you got sick, it's the last place you want to go. So what's the difference? The difference is the people who work in that hospital. So how could any company build a world-class organization? As I said, the top financial concern of all Americans, well, the biggest challenge for all Americans is funding their retirement. And it's the top financial concern of most of them. And most aren't prepared. You could use this to give it to, if you have a company, whatever your business is, you give this to your superstars. The people you absolutely do not want to lose, your key employees. The others, the average U.S. worker changes jobs every 4.1 years. So if you don't give it to them, over the next 4 years or so, you'll have all new people coming in. So what do? You use this tool to, whenever you have an opening, because I'm not saying fire the others, you need the bodies. You use this tool to draw in the best of the best for whatever that occupation is. And then you hold them there with this tool. Over time, maybe the next 3, 4, 5 years, you'll have a company that's all superstars. You'll have a world-class organization. And using that one simple tool, you could turn any company into world-class.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I think the next thing for you will be how to take this solution to a lot of industries out there. I know probably a lot of business captains of industries, CEOs may not know this system currently, but I think it will be good, for a lot of these big companies that actually need this solution to hear about your solution. I think for me, that would be my take. But anyway, let's look into another side of this. Technology. What specific technology or AI tool are you currently using in your business, especially to implement this retention solution across hundreds of departments nationwide?
I use a lot of them. I have so many tools, I don't even know the names of all of them. I have to go look at a list when I'm trying to do something. But probably the most common one that I use, obviously, is ChatGPT. And I use the most current version that's out there. And it's great. It's such a time saver. I mean, it does the mundane tasks that suck up time, and it just puts it out there so that you can be far more productive. I mean, I do things in 5-10 minutes that take a week to do. I mean, literally, especially when you're having the thing do research and crunch numbers and do all those other things so that I can focus on the vision and the mission.
Fantastic. Now, let's, look more deeper into this, because I asked you earlier and you told me you will definitely be involved in implementing your solution. I mean, it's going to come to a time whereby you will get a lot of requests from a lot of people, and definitely scaling this kind of solution or implementation is something that you cannot be at every implementation all the time. And one of the ways is for you to probably use technology again, use AI, automation to do some certain things. I just wanted to ask you directly, do you see any potential in using AI automation in implementing your solution across board? Probably something you think about, maybe something you are not thinking about, but me asking you now, do you look at it and say, oh, there are a lot of things that we do that if we actually automate it, then it will help us speed in terms of implementation?
Well, what you're really talking about is scaling. And there's two ways, and it's all in our business plan and things that are already in place. And scaling requires two things. One, AI, and two, having good people around you. And what I love to do is surround myself with people who are smarter than me. I mean, I just do that whenever I can. And
Smart.
Oh yeah, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room. I want to be surrounded by brilliant people. And
I agree.
And I have relationships and strategic partners and so on, so that as I grow, as this plan and the system grows, the scaling the pieces for scaling are already in place.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So basically, just walk us through the people you are actually serving. I know you talk about the department, but currently some of the people, apart from the department of police, firefighter, who are the other set of people that you are currently serving with your solution?
CEOs, hospital CEOs. I like to start with the CEO, or at the very least somebody in the C-suite. Because, as I mentioned before, these are usually substantial projects. So you need somebody who's at the C-level who can say, yeah, we need this for our company, let's do this. Decision makers, policy makers, and so on.
What's your go-to-market strategy? Because for me, where I see it, I want to see your solution break through every industry, especially those particular industry that need those technical or highly skilled workers. But if you don't have a good go-to-market strategy, like they say, you may have a good product, but nobody's buying it.
You're absolutely correct. A big part of my go-to-market strategy is public speaking. Speaking at conferences where the leaders of these types of industries and so on gather. Most industries have a state organization and they have a national organization. And they have conferences where leaders from that particular industry, wherever it may be, the CEOs, and they come to network with each other, get new ideas, and find out how can they make their business or their organization better. And they come to say, and they all have the same problem, finding and keeping skilled labor. And I solved that problem. I wrote a book, called Talent Retention, how to attract and retain highly skilled professionals. And I wrote that book some years ago. I'm in the process of writing a second edition, bring it more up to speed because there were a lot of changes that happened between COVID and the last administration and inflation and so on. So that it takes all that stuff into account. And it'll be ready probably later this year. And when I get up and I speak, it's from an author's perspective. Just looking at the problem and saying, this is the problem, here is the solution, here is the result. You choose what you like.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. In the next 12 years, maybe give us some numbers. Where do you see this solution? I know it's making wave currently, but you must have a bigger vision in terms of where you want to take this solution to in the next 12 months.
This is in the next what?
12 months.
Oh, next 12 months.
Yeah.
That's a harder number to say, but if you really want to look, because I look at 12 months as short term. Short term in the millions. Long term, mid-term, 5 years, 10 years.
12 years?
You're looking at billions, literally billions.
Wow.
This is not a little thing. Let's go back in time. 1875, the first pension plan was formed. American Express gave us the first pension plan as a way to attract and retain labor. It was so successful that the other industrials, like the railroad and whoever, they followed suit. So by the 20s and 30s, it became the standard way for Americans to retire. The heyday was the 50s all the way through the 70s. Then something happened. 1878, Congress gave us an act, and in it was a little section called Section 401k, and it brought all of that crashing down. Wall Street saw an opportunity. They went about selling this to all the employers. They said, hey, give these young baby boomers this 401k thing and you can get rid of those expensive pension plans. The employers said, wow, this is great. We don't have to fund these pensions anymore. The employees looked at it and said, wow, this is great. This is portable. We can take it from one employer to the next. So if we want to move from this employer to that one, we can just take our 401k with us and off we go. So what happened was, the glue that held employer to employee and vice versa was gone. Because up until that point, people spent their entire career at one, maybe two companies. Why? They wanted that lifetime pension, and they would stay with an organization for as long as it took to get it. Well, both groups shot themselves in the foot. Here we are, almost 50 years later. Almost no one can afford to retire. The average 401k runs out of money in 12 to 14 years, and that was before inflation went up. Now it's even faster. And the biggest hidden cost that an employer has is turnover. It's skyrocketing and it's getting worse. But, because you were asking me about how I see things, this is how fast things can change. That started in 1978. By the early 80s, it was the fastest growing retirement plan in America. Once this catches hold, this will become the fastest retention plan in America. By far, and it could replace the 401k.
That's my next question. Are you planning to get legislation to do that?
No, I'm not planning. I mean, could it happen? Sure. I got enough on my plate right now.
Anything is up. Anything is possible. Okay. But have you faced any challenge in terms of probably any department, CEO, trying to, not want to accept your proposal? Maybe you have the opportunity to propose your system to them, and then they say, no, this is not good enough. Or no. Have you seen any obstacle, any challenges so far?
The only challenge, everybody loves it. I've never run into anybody who says, oh, we don't like that. Or, oh, no, that won't work. Or we've seen that before. No, never happened. What has happened is it takes cash flow to do it. And some have said, oh, we like this. We can't afford to do it right now. I know we're not spending the money. We're just parking it over here, but we don't have it to move over there. But if things change for us, we want to revisit this in the future. So like anything, I mean, is there a downside to it? Yeah, it takes money to do it. Are you going to lose that money? No, you're going to get it back and more. But it takes money to start it. It takes cash flow to do it. Because if it didn't and everything was wonderful, this would be a fairy tale. And it's not a fairy tale. This is for strong organizations that have a need for skilled labor, and they have the means to do it.
So the only impediment will be if the organization doesn't have the money to roll it out.
Yeah,
otherwise,
funding.
It's always a go.
It's just fun.
Wow.
One more thing. For the cities and towns, the municipalities, there's grant money to do this. There's grant money available. Now, it's up to them to go get it, but there's a number of grants that this plan qualifies for, and that the money comes from the federal government, goes to the state sets up a grant process, and the cities and towns have to go through that, and it's going to be different for different states. But yeah, there's serious money available.
Wow, that's incredible. If you know, you know. That's it. Okay. What piece of advice do you have for municipal leaders who are watching departments that probably they're still like thinking, what's the way forward? How do we solve this retention problem? What advice will you be giving them? Maybe even to CEOs out there.
I would tell them, go to my website, davidalemian.com, and then reach out to me and let's talk. That costs them nothing. And if anything else, they'll get a good education and they'll get a solution. A system that works. Here's one more thing about speaking of systems. Have you ever seen a McDonald's franchise go out of business? Very, very rare. Why? Because McDonald's has a system. And if a system works, it works for anyone who works and follows the system.
That's true.
This system is a system that works. You can look at it, you can try and punch holes in it, shoot holes in it wherever you can. You'll find it's bulletproof. It works. There's no way that it doesn't work. The only requirement is that you need the funds to start the system. Do that, it works every single time.
Let's flip the coin. I mean, on a lighter mode, what is in it for you when you implement this? Do you get a percentage of the fund in the pool, or you just have a flat fee for implementing it for anyone that wants to implement it?
Good question. The heartbeat of this system is it's built on a financial instrument. I make money from the sale and the use of that financial instrument.
Wow. Okay.
That doesn't add to the cost. It doesn't add to the cost. I mean, anybody using the system, if they went through somebody else, there'd still be that system. It's there. So, no, it's inconsequential.
All right. So if anyone listening, watching, well, this is really brilliant. They want to know more. And maybe there's even a possibility of collaboration. I don't know if that is something you're open to, and they want to reach out to you. I know you mentioned your website, but where else can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only David Alemian on the planet, let alone on LinkedIn. I'm the only one with my name. So they can reach out to me there, or they can go to davidalemian.com.
Okay. What about David Alemian Jr.? I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you so much for coming through. I think your insight is so tremendous. I know we can't really unpack the detail because there are just too many questions to ask. Because what you're doing it's really, it's saving a lot. You know, not just, the nation's security alone, because like you said, this could be implemented in the private sector. And I think for me, that's where I belong. If there's going to be any interest personally for me, I think that is the area that when it comes to firefighter, police department, well, I may not know much, but when it comes to the private sector, I think that's where I think for me, it makes sense and I'm maybe looking into. But I think anyone that's going to watch, anyone that's going to listen to this discussion, definitely we have one or two things to gain. Because if it's going to help them, help their future, they may also want to tell their employers, why are you not doing this now? Right? Because these are things that could help and make anyone to stay put in any organization. Come to think of it, why do people try to move to another organization? Simply put, because there's more money. Because you offer them more money. So it's all about the benefit. And those are short-term benefits. When you pay somebody more money today, those are short-term because you get the money, you spend it. But when you're now giving them benefit for the future, it's just a no-brainer. So I think, David, for me, you will still have to do more because your system needs to go everywhere. And by the time you capture the United States of America, I believe other countries, international, should be looking into it. And I think you will agree with me, but correct me if I'm wrong, your system should work in any country.
I keep it here.
Why?
Simply because of the internal licensings that go along with financial instruments.
Okay. All right. Got that. Anyway, David, thank you so much for coming through. We really appreciate all that you've shared. And we want to wish you well.
Thank you.
And we will continue to follow your story, and it will continue to be part of your success story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You didn't quit your day job to become a full-time admin assistant. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you didn't start your business to spend 60 hours a week on paperwork, chasing leads, and managing endless admin tasks. You started it to build something meaningful and serve your clients. But right now, you're trapped in the day-to-day grind instead of growing your business. What if I told you our clients are reclaiming 15, 20 hours per week, increasing their revenue by 30 to 50% within 6, 12 months, and finally getting their lives back? We don't just automate random tasks. We build custom AI systems that eliminate the bottlenecks choking your growth, from leads generation to lead, nurturing and management to project management to client follow-ups. Stop paying for an expensive, frustrating manual system. It's time to upgrade to strategic automation. Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free business transformation strategy call today. Discover exactly how much time and money you're losing to manual processes and how to get both back. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Intelligence Forge, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with game-changing insights. Your future automated business is waiting.